Came back. You see this? They're at my front door. They came back. And I'm telling them all I want is peace.
Hey man, just put your hands up.
No, I'm not.
Come on, Kojuan. Put your hands up.
I'm not. I'm sorry. I love y'all. Yeah, if y'all
Going across.
All right.
Going out this way? Yeah. Come on. Get out. Get out. Keep your hands up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Put your hands up.
There is a moment in every standoff, a moment so brief most people never see it, where everything that has been building for hours collapses into a single decision. Not the decision made by the officers outside the door, the decision made by the man inside. In March 2026, that moment happened twice, in 2 Texas cities, in 48 hours. On the morning of March 9th, 2026, a coalition of state and local agencies converged on a southeast Houston home to serve a parole violation warrant on 36-year-old Kojuan Miles, a man with a documented violent criminal history who had been on law enforcement's radar long before that morning arrived. 48 hours later and 300 miles north, Dallas Police Fugitive Unit detectives quietly surrounded a white Mercedes inside the parking structure of a children's hospital, where 39-year-old Diamond Maziar Robinson, a man wanted on multiple felony warrants who had spent weeks constructing a false identity that placed him inside the very law enforcement world now closing in on him, sat refusing to move. Both men knew why the officers were there. Both men had been found. And in both cases, what happened next followed the same devastating sequence: negotiation, escalation, and death. This documentary does not ask whether these officers were right or wrong. Investigations are ongoing, and that question belongs to the courts. What it asks is harder than that. It asks what kind of system consistently produces this same chain of events. It asks what negotiation actually is when it ends this way. And it asks the question that never appears in any official statement. Why, when a man is already cornered and already found, does he reach for a weapon anyway? What you are about to watch goes further than any news segment covering these incidents. Not because the footage is more graphic, but because the questions being asked here are the ones every other platform skipped. The body cameras were rolling for the entire thing. And what those cameras captured is not just what happened. It is the sound of a system operating exactly as designed, arriving at an outcome nobody announced, but everyone should have seen coming. Stay with this to the end. The last question asked in this documentary is one you will not be able to stop thinking about. It begins not with a gunshot, but with a warrant that had already been signed, a man who had already made his decision, and a door that was about to open onto something no negotiator had been trained for. Southeast Houston on the morning of March 9th is a neighborhood going about its day. Children, front porches, parked cars lining quiet residential blocks. But by 10:30 in the morning, something very different is already in motion on the 6,000 block of Bell Arbor Street. Officers from the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Texas Attorney General's Office, and Harris County Precinct 7 have already arrived to serve a warrant.
They got my house surrounded. Look how many laws they got out there. Look at this. Yeah, they got my house surrounded.
The man they are looking for is inside. And he already knows they are there. By the time Houston PD SWAT is activated and takes over the scene, the morning has already changed its nature entirely. This is no longer a knock on a door. This is a siege.
Came back. You see this? They're at my front door. They came back. And I'm telling them all I want is peace.
Hey man, just put your hands up.
No, I'm not.
Come on, Kojuan. Put your hands up.
I'm not. I'm sorry. I love y'all. Somebody need to make some phone call. Please, please, please tell these people to leave because I'm not coming out. Please. And they didn't kick the door down. They mad I got this phone out.
For the next 2 hours, negotiators relied on a combination of verbal commands, amplified negotiation, and indirect communication methods to reach Kojuan Miles. Initially, they used clear, direct verbal commands at the door, identifying themselves as police and instructing Kojuan Miles to open up. At the same time, officers attempted indirect communication channels, including phone contact where possible, to establish dialogue without increasing tension. Throughout the standoff, communication was deliberately non-confrontational and repetitive, focused on de-escalation, reassurance, and giving clear instructions, while internally, officers maintained constant radio communication to coordinate movements, share updates, and manage the evolving situation.
Take a stand, right? Hey, you can kill a revolution, but you can't kill a revolution. So either you gonna be a stand and take a man, or you gonna live on your knees. I'd rather die on my feet.
There is no response. Seconds pass, then stretch into a silence that feels increasingly deliberate. Inside the house, Kojuan Miles begins to arm himself, unseen by the officers outside. Sensing the lack of cooperation, the officers pull back slightly and update dispatch. What was expected to be routine now carries uncertainty. They report a non-responsive suspect and begin to consider the possibility of a barricaded situation. The tone over the radio shifts, subtle but unmistakable. As additional units arrive, the situation escalates. Officers establish positions around the house and begin securing the immediate area. Neighbors are quietly moved away for safety. Over the radio, a critical update is made. The suspect is believed to be armed. That single detail changes everything. A request is made for tactical support. Within minutes, SWAT is activated, and command begins transitioning from patrol officers to specialized units trained for high-risk incidents. Just after 12:30 in the afternoon, the front door opens. This time Miles is not releasing anyone.
Shoot ferrets?
Hey, he's right there. He's right there at the door. He's right there at the door. Could shoot pepper ball right at him. He's right there at the A side, right at the door.
What this line captures is the razor-thin interval between a less lethal option and a lethal one. In that moment, an officer is calling for pepper ball rounds, a non-fatal munition designed to create pain and disorientation rather than injury. The instinct to reach for something non-lethal first, documented on body camera, tells us something about the training and the intent of the officers on scene. It does not tell us whether the choice to arrive at that door at all, with that level of force, was the only choice available. The situation moves faster than the audio can keep up with. Less lethal rounds are deployed. Then ferret rounds, chemical irritants fired through the door and wall. And then, the moment the entire morning was always moving toward.
What motivation did he fire at us?
There was multiple shots. LT.
Okay.
That question, he fired at us, right, is not a question born of confusion about facts. It is the human mind, flooded with adrenaline, demanding confirmation of what the body already lived through. It is also, in a more clinical sense, the beginning of the evidentiary chain. The moment officers begin to document in real time what occurred, knowing that what they say to each other in these seconds will be reviewed. That both things can be true simultaneously is one of the uncomfortable realities this body camera footage makes impossible to deny.
Let's hold off on ferret rounds, and then we're going to try to get a drone up there, see if we can see him.
What follows is a period of stillness that is in many ways harder to watch than the exchange of fire. Officers deploy a drone to locate Miles. The radio traffic shifts from tactical commands to something quieter and more deliberate.
Okay, that's clear. Hey,
6 words. And in those 6 words, the entire operational objective is achieved and simultaneously rendered irrelevant. The warrant that set this morning in motion will never be served. The parole violation it represented will never be adjudicated. HFD paramedics are pronounced on scene. Kojuan Miles is dead. During the 2 hours that officers stood outside his door communicating by text message, Kojuan Miles was reportedly posting on social media. Photographed holding 3 weapons while a SWAT team waited in the street below his window. He was not hiding. He was not negotiating in good faith. He was documenting. The warrant that brought law enforcement to Bell Arbor Street that morning was for a parole violation, not an active violent crime in progress, not a hostage situation. A violation of parole conditions, a document generated by the correctional system, handed to field officers, and converted by the rules of tactical engagement into a multi-agency SWAT operation. The question theme one demands be asked is this: was a large-scale tactical warrant service the only available method of bringing Kojuan Miles into custody, or was it simply the most operationally familiar one? And if there is a difference between those two things, who is responsible for knowing it? 2 hours of text message negotiation. Officers who communicated with a man holding multiple weapons through a screen, at a distance, through a door that had already been fired through. The negotiation secured the safe exit of one vulnerable person. It did not secure the safe exit of Miles himself. And the question that has no clean answer is whether it was ever designed to, or whether it was designed to demonstrate that every reasonable option was exhausted before force became inevitable. At what exact point did negotiation end and inevitability begin? And who, in that 2-hour window, had the power to change which direction it went? What happened in Houston on March 9th is disturbing enough on its own, but 48 hours later, in a city 300 miles away, the same machinery produced the same outcome, wrapped in a completely different story that somehow makes everything that just happened feel even more unresolved.
Detectives learned Robinson had been using fictitious information and wearing police-style uniforms to falsely represent himself as a federal agent. Detectives also learned Robinson used the alias Mike King and created fraudulent businesses using false identifying information to hire legitimate police officers for off-duty jobs. Robinson was wanted on multiple felony warrants as well as a parole violation.
The Dallas case does not begin on March 11th. It begins weeks earlier, in the offices of the DPD Intelligence Unit, where investigators are building a picture of a man who has made an art form out of invisibility. Diamond Maziar Robinson, who called himself Mike King, was not hiding in the traditional sense. He was hiding in plain sight, inside the apparatus of law enforcement itself, running fraudulent companies that employed real off-duty police officers as private security. The same institution now hunting him was simultaneously writing him checks.
Hey, stop the car!
Stop the car!
Move your car, move your car. Stop!
Stop!
Go.
When DPD Fugitive Unit detectives finally locate him on the night of March 11th, he is not at home, not on the run. He is sitting in a borrowed white Mercedes inside the parking structure of a children's hospital, as though the geography itself was chosen for the incongruity of it. At 9:13 p.m., detectives enter the garage and surround the Mercedes. The female passenger exits immediately and is detained without incident. Robinson does not move. For the next hour, fugitive unit officers negotiate, offering him the chance to speak with family members, offering him every procedurally available off-ramp. At just after 10 p.m., SWAT arrives and the negotiations continue. The body camera footage begins earlier than the garage confrontation. And what it captures in the moments before arrival tells us something important.
His hand goes down, I'm sitting in this room. Yep. I need to know if he's got that gun on him.
That line is spoken inside the parking garage. The knowledge that Robinson is armed is not something officers discovered when he produced the weapon. It was something they carried with them into that parking structure for the entire duration of the negotiation. Every minute of that 1-hour conversation happened with officers already knowing what was in that car. That fact changes the texture of what negotiation meant in that garage. At 11:03 p.m., the door of the Mercedes begins to open. Officers give clear verbal commands. Robinson begins to emerge, and then the body camera captures the seconds that define everything.
Come on, get out. Get out. Keep your hands up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Put your hand up. Don't reach. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Those words, repeated, urgent, desperate in their precision, are not a command issued from a position of control. They are a plea from officers who can see what is happening and cannot yet stop it. Less lethal chemical agents and a flashbang are deployed simultaneously.
Hold. Hold. Hold.
3 SWAT officers fire their rifles. The window between that plea and those shots is measured not in seconds, but in fractions of them. What follows is the institutional response operating exactly as trained. Weapons secured, medic activated, life-saving measures begun. But Robinson is pronounced dead at 11:09 p.m., 6 minutes after the door of the Mercedes opened.
Gun! Drop the fucking gun! Drop the fucking gun! Drop the fucking gun!
That line arrives in the transcript after the shooting has already begun. Officers calling for a weapon to be dropped that is already no longer a threat. It is the voice of training running 30 seconds past the moment the training was designed for. It is also, in its own way, the sound of something human breaking through the tactical language. The voice of officers who did not want to be in that garage, in that moment, making that call. The handgun that Diamond Maziar Robinson produced from that Mercedes was stolen. The companies he used to hire real police officers were fraudulent. The government license plates on his vehicles were fake. The identity he operated under for weeks was not his. In the parking garage of a children's hospital, surrounded by the institution he had spent months pretending to be part of, the only thing Diamond Maziar Robinson produced that was real was the gun. 1 hour and 50 minutes of negotiation. Officers who offered Robinson access to his family. A SWAT team stationed in a children's hospital parking garage for the better part of 2 hours, waiting for words to do what only compliance could ultimately accomplish. The question Theme 2 demands is this. At any point during that 1 hour and 50 minutes, was there a version of that conversation that was ever going to end differently? If Robinson had already decided. If the decision to produce that weapon was made before the Mercedes door ever opened, then what was the negotiation for? Was it for Robinson, or was it for the record? What 48 Hours in Texas in March 2026 produced was not two isolated incidents. It was a single pattern wearing two different faces, two pre-planned tactical operations, two prolonged negotiations, two fatal outcomes, and two near-identical institutional responses deployed with remarkable speed and consistency. The system worked exactly as it was built to work. The body cameras rolled. The statements were released. The oversight boards were briefed. And 2 men are dead. The pattern does not prove wrongdoing. It does not exonerate anyone. What it does, if examined honestly, is reveal the edges of something that no single case is ever large enough to show on its own. A machinery so practiced in its operation that the outcome feels, in retrospect, less like a tragedy and more like a procedure. If the warrant is the beginning of the chain, and the negotiation is the middle, and the shooting is the end. And if that chain produces the same result in different cities with different officers and different men on different days, that question does not have one answer. It has as many answers as there are people willing to sit with it honestly. Drop yours in the comments. Not the easy answer, the real one, because this is the conversation that most channels are not willing to have, and it deserves more than one voice. If this documentary gave you something that the headlines never did, hit like. Not for the algorithm, but because it tells us this kind of analysis is worth making more of. Share this. Not because it is dramatic, but because the people in your life who care about justice, about policing, about what this country does with its most difficult questions, deserve to see it too. And subscribe to Dark Tapes, because this is what we do here. We don't give you the official version. We don't give you the outrage version. We give you the version that asks the question everyone else stepped over on their way to the next story. There are more coming. Stay with us.